Hello everyone, it's Brandon here again for another video. This video is going to be very interesting. So just try to sit back and be mindful of some of the reactions you're going to have against what I'm saying. What I'm saying does sound fantastical, mystical, something of the sort, and that's because it is. But this is also something that you can verify for yourself through your own direct experience. So don't just take my word for what I'm saying. That's not how you'll get the most value out of this. But also don't come in as some, overly skeptical person saying that everything is wrong, because it's not. But anyway, let's get into the topic. So I titled this video, How to Become a Jedi Master. A lot of people have seen the Star Wars movies, so it's actually a beautiful metaphor to kind of use to talk about this stuff. What I'm talking about today is enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment, the type of thing that Buddha had, Jesus Christ had, Muhammad had. Basically, anyone who's at the center of any religion has mastered this type of knowledge. Sorry for the interruption. My cats were starting to make noises. Anyway, so I'm talking about spiritual enlightenment here. But don't click off the video just yet if you think that that's something you're not interested in. Because let me assure you, at the deepest core of your being, you are extremely interested in spirituality. That's why there are billions of religious followers today, even though the people practicing those religions typically don't understand what the religions are actually trying to say, or what the spiritual master at the core of the religion is trying to say. People like Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha have been deified, and that is actually what they didn't want to happen. They didn't want anyone to think that what they had was somehow inaccessible to them. What each one of these people did, any spiritual master who really got a high level of attainment, they didn't necessarily want other people to become enlightened all the time. But they did give very real steps and guidelines that you could follow in the times that they lived in. That's important. But they gave steps that you could follow to achieve some level of spiritual mastery. Now, some models are better than others. Some books are better than others, such as the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, these are all holy texts, but some of them are more pertinent to our lives today in the 21st century. But again, that isn't really the focus of this video either. I'm telling you how to become a Jedi Master, and it's a metaphor. So one of the reasons why Star Wars is so successful is because it actually plays upon archetypes in our own psychology that are kind of hardwired and built in as humans. And it also is talking about the Force. The Force is real, let me tell you that. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be shooting lightning out of your hands like, the Palpatine guy, I believe is his name. And it doesn't mean you're going to be like Yoda and, wield a lightsaber like a master. I mean, what this means is you're going to learn how to masterfully go through your own life and love every day, learn to love every last thing that could ever happen to you, become a more loving person, become a more powerful person, probably become a wealthier person at times. But it really depends on your individual path. Everyone's path to enlightenment is different, and not everyone is really meant to have enlightenment in this life on planet Earth. Now, when you're looking at me, you probably think, okay, this is a 24-year-old white male in the United States. What the fuck can this guy know about spiritual enlightenment? And you're good to ask that question. That's a good thing to ask. How does this person who seemingly is just a normal guy have some type of secret sauce information about the metaphysical nature of our reality? Well, I've learned from a lot of great masters. I am obsessed with spiritual enlightenment. I cannot stop learning about it. That's my path on this earth. And the Force, what it really is it is what guides you through your life. And there are certain actions, emotions, energies, and things that you can do that will bring you into a better accordance with the Force of the universe, or the Tao. The Tao is actually the perfect, real spiritual explanation of what the Force is in our universe. So like I said, of course, we're not going to be shooting lightning out of our hands and doing things like that, but you need to understand that there are actually... Sorry, I had an alarm going off. There are actually things that you can do to alter this physical reality once you get to a certain level of spiritual enlightenment. These, in the Hindu system of understanding spirituality, or a connection to the Force, you might say, they are called siddhis. These are powers to control the physical world, literally like walking on water. Woo! There are a lot of religions built around people such as Christ, Buddha, and Krishna who walked on water. Jesus Christ wasn't the only person to walk on water, at least as far as the myths tell. But you need to understand how this is possible. And it's beautiful because science is actually progressing to the point where they can start to explain that shit isn't how we thought it was in the scientific materialist paradigm. In that paradigm, or way of understanding the world, that's what a paradigm is, if you aren't familiar with that word. In that paradigm, some of the greatest scientists, when they started looking into quantum mechanics, they quickly became some type of a theist almost. They knew that the world was more magical than we could have ever imagined. Because today, you are experiencing life as a human being on planet Earth, and you're probably looking at your phone or your laptop, and you think it's a physical object in front of you. You think that your consciousness comes from the brain, a physical thing. But scientists have proven that that all the physical things you see in front of you right now are over 99% empty space. And also, what are they finding? They're finding dark matter and dark energy that they literally can't explain. Forces that control our existence that are non-physical. It's too fucking good to even believe. Like how, like seeing it from my own point of view, because of the experiences and the consciousness that I've come to realize is true. It's literally hilarious how magical our reality is, but people, you don't have to label it as magical. I mean, if you're an atheist or a staunch rationalist, or, you know, a scientific materialist, that's what most people in the United States are, whether they realize it or not. They're really deeply entrenched in the flawed scientific materialist paradigm. And that's not to say that science is wrong necessarily, but science just doesn't know. Science is always, you know, I'd say about 5,000 at least years behind the kind of science that we call science, behind spiritual science. Spiritual science learns things faster because it doesn't have such a rigid structure for, you know, what you need to prove that something's real. Spiritual science more works off of, is this changing some type of phenomenon? We don't need to know necessarily how it's doing it. We just need to see that it is doing it. So you can actually approach spirituality or enlightenment from a scientific point of view. You can try to verify things for yourself. That's what I want you to do, because it will do you almost no good whatsoever to believe what I'm doing on blind faith, because you won't become enlightened then. What you need to do is start meditating. You need to, you could, if you think it is the right thing for you and that your mental health can take it at the time, you could take psychedelics. That's literally like the anabolic steroids for enlightenment. taking psychedelics. They literally destroy your personal identity, your ego, if you take enough, a high enough dosage. They destroy your ego, which in a neurological standpoint is what it's known as your default mode network. Scientists are starting to do research into how psychedelics affect the brain. Psychedelics affect the brain by lowering your common neural pathways, which are your default mode network, literally what makes you experience, life this way, what fires together, wires together. If you've ever been in a psychology class, you've probably heard that. The neurons that fire more often, basically become stronger, and those connections are there more often. What psychedelics do is that they are non-specific amplifiers. So what that is, what a psychedelic is it amplifies your consciousness by using different parts of the brain that you don't typically use. So, that adage that we only use 10% of our brain, that adage is actually wrong. We don't use all of our brains all the time, but we can use all of our brains. And actually, by following spiritual principles, you start using other parts of your brain. It's funny, you can actually, at a certain point, if you get to a certain point in spiritual development, you can literally feel changes happening in your skull, within your brain. You can feel things physically changing. This is what's known as neurogenesis, the creation of new neural pathways and healing and creating new neural pathways. Healing your brain. You're healing your brain with spiritual science by following what Jesus Christ, Krishna, Buddha, all these other enlightened people, Muhammad, told you to do. Isn't that beautiful? Deepak Chopra, a high-level spiritual master from, he's Indian, but he speaks English. I don't know if he's American as well, but anyway, he's a very incredibly intelligent person, and he's also a spiritual master. And he said the secret to healing is enlightenment. And I've seen that that is the case. Because I have bipolar disorder type 1, I was diagnosed with that. I was also diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I also had severe social anxiety. I know I'm not there with you in person, but do I seem socially anxious at this point in time? Do I? Do I seem really nervous to express myself? No, I don't. And that's because the secret to healing is enlightenment. It is learning how to operate within the force, the Tao. The Tao comes from the Chinese book, the Tao Te Ching, or Tao Te Ching. You can spell it with a D or a T. In English, it's a little bit more common at times with a D, because that's the way that we sound it out. Anyway, that's not ultimately important at this point in time. So, to become a Jedi Master, you have to learn to live in accordance with these spiritual principles. That's all it really is. And you can do it. I mean, there are literally hundreds, thousands of different spiritual techniques. Follow whatever one makes you most comfortable. If you're a Christian, read the Bible. Until the Bible starts limiting you, that doesn't mean there's anything flawed with the Bible, necessarily. It was like the Old Testament worked very well for people to spiritually develop back then in that culture with the things that they were facing at that time. But there's a reason why every spiritual tradition always has changes that come to it. People like to say that the Bible is whole and complete and has everything in it. And in a way, they're right. It does have enough steps in it to where if you follow the Bible, you will become some degree of a spiritual master. At least, in an earthly way. You're not going to hit the highest peaks of it by just only looking at the Bible, most likely, because the language is off. It's not designed for our culture. So what did Jesus Christ do? I know I probably have a lot of Christians who at least tuned into this video at the beginning. They probably got off once I started saying that Krishna and Buddha were also equal to Christ. But anyway, if you're a Christian, follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. If you're a Hindi, if you are Hindi, sorry, follow the teachings of Krishna if that makes you more comfortable. All of these teachings are very good. You just have to remember that, you know, some of the things they say don't apply as much now to you. But what I was saying before is Jesus Christ came as a Jew. He was a Jew, and he created a new religion. Did he mean to create a new religion? No. He became an enlightened person because he had some really beautiful talent for understanding spiritual wisdom and enacting it in your life. Mainly through acting through the heart chakra. In other words, by being compassionate and loving for the human beings and other beings around him. Jesus Christ came and people created a religion around him, a new religion. Why was it a new religion? Because the Old Testament, the Torah, was no longer valid. It didn't do its job anymore. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he will return whenever irreligion and atheism are practiced. What's going on right now? What's going on right now in our world? Atheism is gaining a foothold, but it will never win. Because God is fucking real. God is real. I can verify that for you. You can verify that yourself. Take some psychedelics, pray, go to church, you know, do whatever you want to do. If you want to, like, this video is about how to become the closest thing to a Jedi Master in this universe. That's what this is. I'm telling you some methods. Meditation. Okay? Meditation. Yoga. And you need to remember that the Western yoga that we have is kind of a bastardized form of yoga. What yoga really is a set of tools to become more connected with the divine. In the West, people only really practice typically one form of yoga, and that is Hatha yoga, which still can connect you with God, but or with the Force, with the Tao. You will become a master of the Force if you do enough yoga. Getting your health in check, getting your money in check so that you're not starving. I mean, these things help. You know, it's good to have a good basis to work from, because spirituality, I mean, spiritual enlightenment, that's going to be the most hardcore thing you ever do in your life if you actually commit to it. It's literally the extreme sport of life, the most extreme. I've had a few interruptions in this video, sadly, but I am going to wrap things up here quickly. I'm going to give you some of the best techniques to come in accordance with the Tao, the force of the universe, so that you can become a spiritual master yourself. Meditation, yoga, eating healthy, mostly plant-based diet, staying away from drugs that affect you in a bad way. You don't want to be doing heroin and trying to become a spiritual master. I said psychedelics and I got into the neurology and some of that, but psychedelics, probably the easiest way in the Western world, but be careful. If you do choose to use psychedelics, I mean, I don't recommend it for anyone, really, because the way people typically do psychedelics is really risky and stupid. Don't do psychedelics at a concert and think you're going to become a spiritual master. That's reckless. I would recommend doing them in a calm setting. If you need a trip sitter, someone to watch over you, if you feel that you need that, use that. There was a study that actually came out and found that mushrooms were, at least by a number of emergency room visits, the safest drug that there is. So don't be too afraid of it, but also remember, if you're not very spiritually purified yet, it's probably not time for psychedelics. It's probably not. Read holy texts, find an interest in spirituality, pray, and surrender to the universe. Pray. If you are an atheist, pray to the universe. If you're a Christian, pray to the Heavenly Father. If you're a Taoist, pray to the Tao. If you're a Buddhist, pray to Buddha. If you're a Hindi, pray to Krishna. If you're a Muslim, pray to Muhammad. All these things work. So anyway, that's all for this video. Shoot me some comments down below. I'll be happy to answer them. I'll be happy to serve as someone to help give you some resources for this. I've spent thousands of hours at this point working on spiritual enlightenment to some degree. So I'm not a master yet, I wouldn't say. I mean, I've had some really peak experiences, really crazy for only being 24. I am very blessed with some spiritual gifts. But yeah, that's all for this video. Please click the like button. It helps me to get my videos to reach more people. Like I said, comment below. I will answer you and I will help you out. I don't have that many subscribers right now, so it's really easy to answer questions quickly, and I enjoy doing it. Share this video with a friend if you think that they might be, interested in it, or think it's funny, or think that this white guy on the screen is a dumbass. Share it. Share it. I do want to say you can verify all this stuff for yourself. If you start doing spiritual practice, you're going to start realizing that life is a lot more magical than you believed if you're an atheist. And if you're a theist, you're going to realize that God is actually a whole lot more loving because he doesn't exist. You are God. Consciousness is God. We are all God. This whole thing that's happening here is God. That's really what it is. But religious people are probably going to react very harshly against that idea. But they haven't had direct consciousness experiences with the nature of God. So it's understandable that they feel that way. Yeah, that's it. Subscribe, please, if you like this video. I'll be making more like it. Thanks for watching.